Hey, what's happening, everyone? Welcome back. And if it's your first time here, just plain welcome. Buffalo, Rich High, aka Angry Cops. Folks, I think the fix is in. Now this is just my interpretation. But in the last week, there's been a lot of little stuff that happened that has made me take a step back and go, yeah, they're they're trying to fuck people over. They are. And so let's go over it just a smidge. All right? Well, let's start back in 2022. 1922? 2022. McKinley High School in Buffalo, New York. A kid was stabbed, and someone who was described simply as a security guard was shot by a student. This was during school hours, before, students had been dismissed for the day, and it worried a lot of people. The school board, it was too much. The superintendent was gone. He was done, right? He was out. The teachers union and people like that were just demoralized, and the Buffalo Public School board said, we're going to launch an independent investigation. And that investigation has never been released to the public. Now, this isn't groundbreaking news. I wrote about it this past week over at Bearing Arms, and it's not earth shattering, right? Only because it's been documented. We know this, right? But Nate Benson at WGRZ, probably the only legitimate reporter in Buffalo, New York, he did a little digging. And guess who, besides the public, didn't get a copy of that report? That would be the Buffalo Police Department. The people who might actually want some information about a school safety initiative. See, this incident at McKinley High School was in February 2022. Benson reports that the investigation should have been completed that summer, or was completed that summer. Buffalo police don't have a record of it. He reached out to the Buffalo Public School Systems, but they haven't gotten back with him as of the time he went to air his report. And there's no reason to believe they've given him any information since then. It's just, this was Tuesday. Tuesday, if I remember right. On Wednesday, the Buffalo School Board met in executive session. That means the door was closed, nobody could peer in. It was just the school board members, no press. Maybe some people they needed information from might have been in there, but nobody besides the certain people were allowed in. They were in that session for 4 hours. 4 hours. And the purpose was to pick a law firm, to conduct their independent investigation. Now, considering the history from the last independent investigation, I don't hold out a damn bit of hope that anyone will ever see anything, right? Because what they did with the last time is they're like, it's going to take time. You just got to bear with us. It's going to take some time. And they know that the public has a relatively short attention span, and likely figured they didn't have to actually release the report. They hired someone, they threw some money at it, and by the time the report came, and nobody cared anymore. The incident was old news in their mind. Plus, it was during the summer. It wasn't that pressing to parents. And by fall, everybody had a mind on other stuff. Okay? This time, they're trying to do another independent investigation that I don't trust. I haven't hidden this fact. Why? They haven't shown me anything that warrants trust. They immediately went to calling what High said. Right? Rich sat there and laid out several allegations, and they called them untruths. That's a very particular term. Because they called them lies, Rich can sue. He can sue them for saying he's a liar. That is defamation. Because it was in a print format, that's, to be specific, that is libel. Now, it's a higher bar because Rich is a public figure, but they're calling him a liar. It opens them up. Right? Especially if they know he's telling the truth. Right? if they know he's telling the truth and call him a liar, that is a malicious and willful disregard for the truth, which are the grounds for a liable suit against by a public figure. Rich would win it. Okay? He would win it. I have no doubt he would win it. So they called it an untruth because they can go, no, untruth. It just means he was wrong. It's a subtle difference in a lot of ways, but it's also, it's lawyer speak, all right? And really, part of what Rich is saying was that the lawyers are telling them not to do things, which means they're listening to lawyers. They're listening to lawyers and not the law. All right. Anyways, 4 hours to get a law firm to conduct this independent investigation. And guess what happened? Not a fucking thing. Nothing. Nothing at all. They could not, for the life of them, find a firm to do it. In fact, now they are, expanding the investigation, and they're giving 7 days for firms to apply. It sounds like they didn't really get many takers, and the ones they got were shit. That's my take. I don't know that for a fact, but that's the general gist of it. Now, something very, very interesting that I want to mention is that, again, they're expanding the scope of this investigation. And I was trying to figure out just how they were expanding it. But there was a quote from Sharon Belton Cotman, who is a member of the school board. And she said she welcomed the expansion of the investigation outside of the incident at the Charles R. Drew Magnet School on February 11th. That is the double child abduction allegations. The ones that, Rich said one parent wasn't even told that someone tried to kidnap their kid. Kid had pissed his pants. Mom didn't find out till she asked, hey, why does my kid wet himself? What the hell happened? That was the thing. And it looks, based on this, that that's all they planned on investigating. Now, go back and watch that video, the original unsubscribed video. Angry Cops, a.k.a. Buffalo SVU detective Richard High, does not stop at that allegation. The idea that they were even potentially considering limiting their investigation to this one incident, which is probably the one incident where someone was charged eventually. It wasn't until after the podcast that 2 felony charges were dropped on this asshole, but the police were at least called. If that is all they planned on investigating, that's a problem. It's a big fucking problem. Now, they've decided to expand it. Now, this is good news in theory. It means they're looking at a lot more. But, again, they've been waiting for almost 3 years for the last independent investigation this school board hired someone to conduct. Nobody's seen the report. Buffalo isn't even saying if they ever got it. And we're supposed to trust this. And again, I think the fix is in. And it's not because of the Buffalo schools. It's because of a guy named John Flynn. Most of us don't know who Flynn is. He's a lawyer. He used to be the Erie County District Attorney. He served a couple of terms before resigning and going into private practice. On the surface, this seems like no big deal. But he was interviewed recently. Actually, I'm not sure if it was interviewed or if he, what the deal was. But he had comments about these allegations. Now, he tells us that, his time in the DA's office, the schools were always super cooperative with him. Always super cooperative. And that really, a lot of people don't understand, people who are upset right now, they need to understand that these investigations take time, and that's why things didn't happen immediately. Because when you're dealing with juveniles, you have to navigate some things a little differently than you would with adults. Now, if it was me bringing this up, that would probably be at least sound fair, right? How many times in this video have I said SVU Detective Richard High? How many times have I talked about Rich being an SVU detective? If not this video, how in the other videos I've done covering Buffalo, in the stories I've written at Town Hall, how many of those have I talked about Rich being a detective? Now, is Flynn going to tell me that an SVU detective is unfamiliar with how investigations are conducted that involve juveniles? I mean, it sounds to me like this is a big part of Rich's job. He's absolutely familiar. He understands how this goes. But maybe Flynn just had different experience. I mean, he was DA for a while, then he left. And for the record, he resigned last year. So this isn't like he did this a decade ago and everything's changed. He resigned last year. But there's some stuff about him that, I'm not sure I want to take his word for anything. Let me pull up some of the specifics that I looked at when I looked into him. Let's see. Well, again, he left before his term was up, right? He resigned towards the first part of 2024 and immediately stepped into a larger law firm as a partner, where he facilitated an alliance with a lobbying firm. Yes, that doesn't scream slimy. I mean, if there's anything worse than, say, a lawyer, it's a lobbyist. Let's see, he was also alleged to have kept a man in prison. This came out from New York Focus in February 2025. There was a guy who was accused of, a crime, right? He ordered a couple of his senior assistant DAs who had worked on some reinvestigations to reinvestigate these charges. Let's see. It was a homicide, a guy named James Pugh. These two spent 4 months conducting dozens of interviews, including with James Pugh. Pugh says he'd been waiting for a while. Part of the problem was that the two, Pugh and Lawrence, who's apparently also convicted of this murder, said that they uncovered some evidence withheld from the defense during the original trial. Also heard testimony to lead them to question the case's lead officer, and there was, they just didn't think the cop in question was trustworthy, right? In fact, let's see, at least a dozen people, including some former coworkers, had expressed concerns about the officer's conduct or disposition. Now, of course, the officer in question denies that there was anything wrong with him, that all of the complaints about him were, criminals he arrested. Maybe not. But two ADAs said, hey, we don't think this is legit. We've got serious questions. Here's some stuff that was withheld, whatever. Flynn decided not to do anything with it because, he thought the cop was trustworthy enough and just let a potentially innocent man rot in prison. Yeah. There's also incidents of him only filing misdemeanor charges on a allegation of sexual assault, claiming he didn't think he could get a felony conviction. This was at a Buffalo private school. There was also a case, I didn't get into this, but there were sexual assault allegations against a priest. He declined to do anything about those, citing, claiming that it was beyond the statute of limitations. That may have been legit, in fairness. I don't really understand how laws in New York work in that regard. But since I published this, there have been people saying that he failed to properly investigate a homicide of a priest that was reportedly going to blow the whistle on some sexual assault things. There were, apparently some other problems with him. In short, the dude is slimy as shit, right? He bailed to go work for a private law firm after he had established enough credentials. He was not interested in serving the people of Buffalo. He was interested in serving himself. My opinion. But this is the guy. This is the guy they've got going after Rich High. Yeah, I'm absolutely convinced that he's a complete piece of shit. The fact of the matter is the schools aren't cooperating. I've talked with Rich. I've talked with Nick, the fat electrician. I know some of what they are going to unveil in their next update. I've been asked not to release it yet. You know, they're getting ducks in a row, but I know some of what they've been told. It is not all of it. I haven't been told all of it. I'm hearing about stuff that's other places. And it's frustrating because I know this is a problem. And I desperately want to put an end to it. Right? But I also want to put an end to these people acting like Rich High is just making this shit up. He stands to lose everything, and they're trying to convince you he's the problem. These people stand to lose everything if the truth comes out. Rich has nothing to gain from lying. They have everything to gain from doing it. That's my take on it. And I'm not going to back down off of it. You know, Rich is doing good work. He deserves support. And he's got me in his corner for what it's worth from now until the end of all of this. And for me, this ends when we start collecting scalps, not just from Buffalo, but from every school system this goes on in. If you work for one of these school systems, if you're part of this, consider this your warning to find a new career. I will not rest. There are kids who deserve better than they're getting. Period. All right, but I could ramble on for hours and ain't nobody got time for that shit. So on that note, I'm going to wrap this video up. Tell me what you think down in the comments. While you're down there, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe button, notification bell, all that jazz, because everything serves the almighty algorithm, and I could use the help. Also, if you want to support the channel, currently there is a coffee link down below. A couple of bucks here, a couple of bucks there, adds up, gives me a chance to upgrade my environment, my equipment, all that stuff, make a better channel, make better videos, etc. And on that note, I am going to wrap it up, and I will see you all in the next video.